Good morning from the garden. We've had some Texas rain, some really, really wonderful thunderstorms, lightning and all. And the garden is so happy right now. When we left for Tennessee back in late June into July, our garden really suffered during that time, and it's had a chance to fully recover since then. So let's do a little tour because this sunflower opened up this morning. I think this is one of those honey bear sunflowers. I planted those for Nathan because he's my honey bear. And so the honey bear sunflowers, I was like, oh, we have to plant those. Here is the spearmint, which I cut way, way back just the other day and gave it to the bunnies. But the thing I really like about this spearmint is these purple stems. It's hard to see that those are purple, but they get really thick, and it's easy to harvest because you just find your purple stem and see that's pretty long, and then go down to the bottom of it and prune from there. Here are the rattlesnake beans, and I love planting beans because they grow so fast. These guys, I made a post when I planted them, and they sprouted almost immediately. And on the other side, this grass-looking stuff here is the sorghum. And I'm really excited to try that because we've never eaten sorghum before. These little red-stemmed plants, they're really beautiful. They just sprouted. This is amaranth. And I just broadcasted the amaranth. The seeds were tiny, tiny little seeds. And Ziggy really wanted me to plant amaranth. He's been asking for months. And so I finally planted that for him, and I'm happy to see that it's doing well. I won't thin that, so we'll see what happens. But I put it in the middle of this bed so it can really just take over this area. The sacred basil, holy basil, Tulsi, some is in flower and it's getting really big. I had been cutting this back a lot, but I decided to leave it alone and see what it would do. It's really healthy. There's a sunflower that's getting ready to open. The okra has recovered from whatever was chewing on it, and it's getting tall. We left a couple of the okra out here to go to seed, and they end up being like these little rattles. These okra that are dry, and they have these round seeds, and when you shake them, they're like rattles. The lemon balm, which I just can't even believe that it's thriving so well in all this heat. It's actually doing better now than it was doing in the spring, I think. So we still have lemongrass for days. Not lemongrass, I'm sorry, lemon balm for days. We have some lemongrass in the backyard now too. This is a gourd flower, and I planted all kinds of gourds, birdhouse gourds, bushel gourds, and dipper gourds, and some loofahs. So I don't know which one this is, but the flowers are so, the texture of the flowers is really interesting and really soft, and they almost feel like thin, almost like tissue paper that doesn't rip, but really, really soft. These are cucumbers. Here's a cucumber coming. Those are the pickling cucumbers, so those are still going. And we planted those in the spring, and they just still keep producing. There's my good old neem spray, which I'm actually out now. I need to get some more. Maybe I can just make some. I do have neem oil. There's another little flower. But I was using that neem spray because these leaves from the gourds had started developing this powdery mildew. And there's a leaf down here that still needs to be treated. So this kind of dusty look is not healthy. And I don't know too much about powdery mildew, and I've kind of just diagnosed that. But when I sprayed the neem spray on all of these leaves, it went away. And so that neem spray continues to surprise me with its different uses. But you can see this gourd is climbing up the archway. And let me stand back here. We still have some room on this archway. The sun is really blaring right now, but hopefully you can see that. And so we can still have some more growth up and over the archway, but I'm really happy with it being there and the plants. You know, there's a lot of, I mean, not a lot. I'll come out and move a leaf through a square of the archway every now and again, but it's not like I'm doing a lot of intense labor out here. But see, like this one could go up and over instead of coming back down. But since it's already taken hold here, we'll just let it continue to do its thing. The bell peppers continue to produce, and you can see little baby bell peppers in there. They're so cute. And since we have so many eggs, I've been making omelets in the morning with bell peppers and tomatoes, and sometimes up to a dozen eggs, because we have so many eggs that I want to use instead of thinking of giving them away all the time or trying to sell them. I'd rather just up our consumption of eggs, and then if we have some overflow, then we can share. But eggs are really good for us, and so we're eating a lot more eggs. And what better eggs to eat than from your own chickens? Here, more little sprouts. I think these are some kind of beans. I planted so many varieties of beans. So there's the rattlesnake beans, and there's something called cow peas, which the kids think that's hilarious. So the cow pea beans and a bunch of different common beans that will all look different. There's another pickling cucumber. That one's almost ready. So all these things that are sprouting up are new. I planted more amaranth, and I think that this is sesame, because it looks kind of like the sesame in the backyard, but we'll see as it gets bigger. More sorghum, more beans. Here's another tiny little basil, sacred basil. So 1, 2, 3. More sunflowers, small little sunflowers that are coming. Some lavender. And this bed I really cleared out to give space for these new plants to grow. These are those melons, cantaloupes. And this vine has been here since the spring, but it had a really hard time while we were gone, and now it's making a comeback. So no mildew on the leaves. The leaves are really healthy. Down here are I planted some desert type of squashes that are really tolerant of the heat, because I didn't want to put shade cloth up out here because it's just a lot of work that I didn't want to do. And the issue with the rain too, when we had different shade cloth up here, it would just get drenched by the rain and become kind of saggy. And so I didn't want to put that up. This is more amaranth, more beans. And of course, the beautiful zinnia bed. There's some zinnias that are already in bloom. And the beautiful thing about zinnias is that if you give them a few days, they'll open up even more. So it's kind of that, you have to be patient with them to let them really come into full bloom before snipping them and drying them. So down here with all the little baby yarrows, the zinnias are thriving. These ones are getting really tall over here. All through there. You can see the comfrey is coming back. The comfrey, I mean, it's been very, very abundant. Another pretty pink zinnia. And the zinnia flowers, I love using them in the broom making and in the shipping packages. They dry so well and they still look really beautiful as dried flowers. So that's why I'm growing more. There's a little passion vine that I moved from the fence because the deer were eating it. So now it's had a chance to really get established and start growing over here, and it will grow up this archway as well. This bed it was completely empty. So now it's got a lot of beans. And I noticed after I came and put a lot of seeds out here the other day, the birds came and ate a lot of them. So these are the seeds that survived the birds. And I thought about coming out here and chasing the birds away, but I find that I have better things to do with my time than chasing birds and squirrels. And so I'm not going to do that because that's just another maddening thing to add to my life that I really don't need. So the birds can have whatever seeds they got. You know, it's survival of the fittest. So the survivor seeds are there, and the ones that didn't survive became bird food, and that's fine too, because we all got to eat. More squashes. Here's another passion vine that I moved from the backyard. And passion vine takes a little while to get established. So I'm happy to see that one is making its way back. I left some oregano over here, cut it way back, and it's coming back. More beans, another squash. Oh, hello, good morning. Who are you? Let's see if we can get this guy. He's really pretty. Marley is the expert of all things animal and insect. This won't come into focus, but oh, there we go. So whenever I find a new bug or have an animal question, I'll ask Marley, because he really is like a walking animal encyclopedia. And I'm always like, well, how do you know all this stuff? Like last night he was telling me that moose are the largest deer. And I was like, whatever, Marley, no way. And I don't know if you guys knew that, but moose are actually deer. And that just blew my mind last night. So I was trying to prove him wrong, actually. And of course, he was right, as usual. So, yeah, if you ever have any interesting animal questions, send them my way and I will ask Marley, because he will likely know the answer. These are sweet potato greens that are coming back after I trimmed them and fed them to the rabbits. So my plan for today, because it's Sunday, which tends to be my day to really get out here and work in the garden, I cleared up all of these paths in between the garden beds. There's my shadow. And so my plan is to, well, you guys can walk with me. Let's see. See my shadow walking. Still working on my cameraman techniques, so just be patient with me. But let's walk together. Oh, the chickens are still in their coop. I haven't let them out. I feed them inside their coop so that they don't battle with the ducks. And I let the ducks eat in their tray. I let the chickens eat in their coop. Then I let all the birds out, refresh their water, and then I let the goats out, and the goats get to eat last so that they don't eat everybody's food. Oh, the ducks are over in their pond. Can you see them? It's nice to see. Okay. Oh, and the chickens are in their coop, and I'll let them out here in a minute. This is our big burn pile area, and after we do a big burn and the dust and ashes cool, then all the animals come over and do like an ash dust bath, and they roll around in it, and it's really nice to see. But we haven't been able to burn anything here lately because we're under a burn ban, so we can't do any open burns. And the fire department knows us really well because we don't always know when the burn bans are, and so sometimes we'll come and start a burn pile and then they'll show up and tell us to put it out. So we've been trying to pay better attention, but most of the time it's pretty obvious when it's really hot outside in the summer. We don't want to be burning a bunch of cuttings. So this pile of hay is from the fall and winter. And so it's been here composting for a while, and I'm going to take this hay because we had another pile over there. There's the drain for the duck pond. We had another pile over under this juniper, but you can see we've used it all up and the chickens have spread it around and got all the grubs and stuff out of it. So I'll get the wheelbarrow and load up this pile and use it to line my paths in the garden, because our ultimate plan is to take those raised beds down eventually and use that whole area in the garden space to plant in. That chicken is loud. Laying an egg or something. That's their egg laying song. So I'll take all that hay and start to rebuild this soil over here in the front gardens to really start being intentional about that plan. Oh, here's a pretty feather. This is a Rhode Island red feather. This is a little area of juniper, and these trees give a lot of berries in the fall. All right, so that's the plan for today. So the next update, this is all the stuff I pulled out of that front garden area. Trellises, old trellises, and buckets, and just stuff that had no business being over there. So I'll clean all that stuff up and make this area lined with hay. Oh, and one more thing I plan to do today. I've been saving up a bunch of eggshells from all the eggs we've been eating. And eggs are like a miracle, man. They just keep on giving. And so the chickens lay the eggs, we eat the eggs, I save the shells, let them dry, and then I'll powder them in the coffee grinder with some old coffee grinds, and I'll add that eggshell and coffee grind mixture to some of the goat berries and the rabbit droppings and some of the spent hay. I'll make a nice little garden mixture, and I'll come sprinkle that in all of these beds because I want to lay something down on top of the soil, but it's not quite ready to mulch yet. I want to give the baby plants an opportunity to get a little bit taller, a little bit stronger before I come in and mulch with some of the composted hay. So I'll make a little video of that because I think that eggshells are just a miracle. They put calcium into the soil, and they help to neutralize acidity in the soil. And then the coffee grinds will come in and push nitrogen into the soil as well. So it's a really good like cocktail mixture for these plants. And I'm just learning all this stuff as I go, so we'll just learn together, so that if you have been throwing away your eggshells or just putting them in the compost, maybe you want to dry them out and powder them and sprinkle them in your garden instead. All right, happy Sunday to you, and thanks for sticking out this 20-minute video, and I'll see you all soon. Waheguru.